in a live televised moment that became an instant cultural flashpoint. The political panel's calm discussion shattered when Nancy Pelosi, in an attempt at humor that missed its mark by miles, made a sharp, mocking remark about Robert Kennedy III's wife, Eleanor, poking fun at her soft-spoken nature, her accented English, and what Pelosi derisively labeled her storybook expectations of political life, a comment so unexpectedly personal that the entire studio seemed to freeze mid-breath as Elena's expression shifted from polite attentiveness to stunned disbelief under the glaring studio lights. For a heartbeat, she sat paralyzed, a private citizen dragged unwillingly into the ugliest corner of political theater, her cheeks flushing as she struggled to understand how her sincerity had become the punchline of a national broadcast. But before she could find her voice, Kennedy reacted with a sudden, protective intensity that broke through the silence like thunder, leaning forward with eyes burning not with political rage but with the raw, human fury of a husband watching someone wound the person he loves most. His voice trembled with emotion as he condemned Pelosi's comment not with insults, but with a piercing clarity reminding her that decades in the political arena do not give anyone the right to belittle a person who never asked for fame, who never sought power, but who stands beside someone who did, carrying the emotional weight of a world she never asked to enter. Everyone in the room felt the emotional earthquake of his words, even the moderator, who fumbled for a commercial break that didn't come in time, and even Pelosi, whose practiced composure faltered as she realized her offhand joke had cut far deeper than she intended. In an awkward but earnest attempt at repair, she offered a slow, careful apology on air, acknowledging that political instincts as sharpened by decades of fierce debate sometimes overshadow empathy, and that she had forgotten, in a moment of carelessness, that real spouses behind political figures often bear invisible burdens with little recognition. Backstage, emotions swirled like a storm. Elena's hands trembled as she tried to steady her breathing, overwhelmed not just by the confrontation but by the tidal wave of messages pouring into her phone. Thousands of strangers sending support, sharing stories of partners who had quietly endured the emotional strain of standing beside someone in demanding, public-facing careers. For the first time since the confrontation, Elena's eyes filled not with hurt but with something softer: relief, understanding, a sense of belonging as she read messages from teachers' spouses, military spouses, police spouses, activist spouses, people who knew the feeling of standing silently in the wings while the world judged them without knowing their hearts. And as the clip spread across the internet, viewed and reviewed from countless angles, the narrative grew beyond the initial shock of the exchange. It evolved into a national reflection on the unseen emotional labor carried by families of public figures, a reminder that behind every heated political moment, behind every headline, behind every person thrust unwillingly into the spotlight, there are human stories so fragile, complicated, resilient, awaiting to be acknowledged. In the end, what people remembered wasn't the clash itself, but the humanity within it. A wife blindsided but brave, a husband willing to risk his composure to defend her dignity, a political veteran learning in real time how deeply words can wound, and a nation reminded that empathy, even in the harshest moments, still has the power to turn conflict into connection and vulnerability into strength.